Hey everyone, what is the good word? So today with me, I have the world-renowned Eda Rosa. She is the founder and CEO of Eda Rosa LLC. She's also a podcast host of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast and author of the Let's Talk Paralegal book. She has over 20 years of experience in the legal industry, and she is able to create a safe space where all legal professionals are able to learn while being empowered. Eda, welcome to the Sales Made Easy podcast. What's a good word?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on and everything. I am so honored. I love being on other people's platforms because I'm always on my platform and I feel like, man, I really want to share my knowledge on others. So I'm really happy when I'm on other people's platforms just because it's awesome to just continue conversations that we've either had prior or create new ones on other platforms. But I have to say, by far, I've been on many platforms before. That was by far the best introduction I've heard yet. So thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that's the least I can do for you. So if you guys don't know Eda, I definitely suggest that you listen to our podcast, Let's Talk Paralegal. This woman has a ton of positive energy. She's a hard worker and she's doing a lot in the legal industry, which typically, like, maybe some don't necessarily think of it as a safe space all the time. So can you talk a little bit about that as to what that means?
Right. So as legal professionals, we go through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of negative bias, constructive criticism, whatever you want to label it. We go through a lot of mindset challenges. Let's just put it that way. And a few examples for those that may not understand what I'm trying to say is delivering information to clients, whether it's good or bad, trying to figure out how we can properly deliver particularly bad news, can really be a challenge to the legal professionals. Constantly having a boss or management or colleague or fill in the blank that's always, pointing out your mistakes and not giving you tools or ways to, or solutions to handle those, and then making you feel like you're less than, things like that. We go through a lot of ups and downs, just like anybody else in any other career. But in the legal industry, it seems to be very competitive, right? Everybody has that competitive mindset, and we compete against each other, which is quite different than some other industries. And even though we're at the same level, we feel like we have to compete against each other, which kind of creates some chaos, some friction. So mine kind of clears out the noise, my platform clears out all of that and really focuses on you, your wants, your needs, and really empowering you and reminding you that you are enough, that you are smart, and that you are going to be okay. Maybe not right now, but eventually you will find your way and you will find the way that works for you.
Wow, that's quite extensive. So thank you, because now I do feel like I'll be okay. So thank you for that. Oh, you weren't talking to me? Oh, okay. But I apply
Talking
it.
to
So.
anybody that listens.
No, it's just so valuable. Well, like in the legal industry, now I've sold to the legal industry for years with technology. And one of the things that, took me a little bit to understand that everything is a case number. And so when you and I were talking a few weeks ago, you were talking about the value of treating people like people and not just a number. And that really stuck with me because your industry, everything seems to be about a number. What's your thought there?
Yeah, so the bigger the firm, the less human they become, is usually how I kind of explain the dynamic. And that's not necessarily true across the board. I'm not going to label every attorney a certain way because that would be unfair both to me and them. But in general, when you see these big names on your billboards or on the bus stops or on commercials or things like that, you automatically get assigned what they call a matter number or a case number, right? So either way, your case will officially have a number in the court system. We all know that. When you're born, you get a number, social security number, or identity, ID number, regardless if you're born here or, originate later. However, you'll get a number, right? So from inception to death, you have a number, and it's nothing different in the legal industry. However, when we take a step back and we actually put the human back in humanity, we have names too, you
Mhm.
know, assigned to those numbers. And I feel like sometimes, even if it's Mr., Miss, and your last name, I feel like that can go a long way versus, oh, what's your file number? What's your matter number? Thank you for calling so-and-so law firm, you know, instead of
Right.
saying, hi, Mr. So-and-so, how may I assist you? You know,
Yeah.
there's a difference. And I feel like that can help not only on the sales portion, but just business in general, you know, growing the business, creating community collaborations, you know, they'll really feel like you care. And that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. So that's really interesting in the sense that you bring up something that's very simple, like in sales, is addressing people by their name.
Mhm.
And so often people refer to people as gatekeepers,
Mm.
and they just want to get through the gatekeeper to get to the person that they believe is going to make the decision. But in the meantime, they steamroll through gatekeepers, quote unquote. There are no titles for jobs named gatekeeper, by the way. But so it's something that salespeople perceive. And so they just ask for the person without even addressing that the person in front of them is a real human being. And it sounds very similar to what you're saying, because that can go such a long way in making people feel welcome, right?
Absolutely. And seen, you know, we're all looking
Yeah.
to be understood. We're all looking to be seen. We're all looking to fit in, quote unquote. And we do this either consciously or unconsciously. So again, when you're born,
Mhm.
let's just go back to the basics. When you're born, your family may speak another language or come from a different country or have different traditions, even if it's not, you know, a country or language. Maybe there's different traditions that your family alone has that's not tied to a religion or a culture. You know, little things like that that make us who we are. You know, we sometimes gets lost in translation. And I think now society as a whole is getting it, because I've seen it transcending through the interview process for companies now. I do a lot of onboarding and offboarding, unfortunately, but I do a lot of that for law firms. And the interview process now is completely different than when I first started working back in the like early 2000s.
Mhm.
So, you know, before you used to submit your resume, hope and pray that they got it, and hope and pray for a callback. That's no longer I guess the norm, you know.
Okay.
For now, they're actually making you go through questionnaires. And these questionnaires are not about your skills, your education, or even your background for that matter. It's about how would you handle a situation X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
If a certain person of a certain personality came towards you in a certain situation, how would you take that on? Would you ask for help? Would you need help? Would you, you know, handle it yourself? They want to see either teamwork or independent traits, right? Because that's what they're looking for.
Mhm.
They're no longer looking for the education you have. They're no longer looking for the skills you have, because anybody can get those. It's what have you done with those skills, and that experience that's what they want. They want that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big difference. That's a big change. So basically, you're saying that people who are book smart need to have some street smarts in them, it sounds like, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Emotional intelligence is a trigger word, right? But it's
Mhm.
a very important word for everyone to understand what it is, what that concept is, because it's basic human behavior. It's something that will help us communicate better with anyone, regardless of language barrier, regardless of mannerisms, regardless of personal perception. When we understand that we need to be understanding. I know it sounds like an
Mhm.
oxymoron at this point,
Yeah, it's true.
but when we get that concept, our whole life, literally our entire life, personal, professional, this is going to help you on all spectrums, even as a parent, for the parents out there, grandparents,
Mhm.
anybody, even if it's a fur baby. It'll help you understand and really see life in a different light, which I think at the end of the day, that's what makes you a good entrepreneur. That's what gives you the foundation, right? To anything, to entrepreneurship, to your career, to being a parent, a good friend, a good spouse, a good, daughter or son, whatever it is. Really meeting people where they're at is not bringing yourself down to their level. I hate when people say that. Oh, I have to bring down myself to their level. Ooh, no. You're already setting a standard that does not exist. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the whole janitor to junior executive. You treat them all the same, regardless of what they're up to. So
I like it. All right, well, let's chat about your business a little bit. So you've been on your own. You left a corporate world to start your own business about how long ago?
We're going on our 6th year now into
All right.
2023.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let me ask, what were some of the things that you did not foresee when you made the leap, that you just went, oh, I didn't know this was going to be the case? So what comes to mind?
Yeah, so I have to kind of do the comparison game, right? So when you're a full-time employee, you have a standard amount of money that for sure 100% that you're going to get every 2 weeks, monthly, weekly, however you get paid. You're either, even if you're just an hourly employee, you have some type of control on how much you are going to allocate, at least on a monthly budget, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case with entrepreneurship. But what happens? One hard lesson that I learned was the money that I made hourly as a full-time employee does not translate the same as when you're an entrepreneur. And that was a hard lesson to learn, right? It had a lot to do with other elements, right? Such as self-worth. I didn't think I was worth it, or I didn't think I had enough skills, or I didn't think I was good enough, right? Which is why I practice what I preach now. So it had a lot to do with that, but it also had a lot to do with not knowing all the cost, all the overhead that comes with being an entrepreneur. Now you're using your own equipment, you're using your own software, you're using your own automation systems. Basically what your employer used to provide you, and for those out there used to take for granted, are no longer an employer's responsibility. That's your responsibility to take on, phone bills, electricity, everything that comes in with owning a business in general, all that comes back to you. So charging the same amount that you used to charge when you were given everything, it doesn't translate the same. So that was one hard lesson.
Yeah. It's so true, is that you don't calculate all of these things when you're making the leap. Then it's like, oh, I never considered this. What about the marketing side? Did you see yourself that you would be a marketer as well, and sales, the head salesperson for your new company?
Yeah, I call it the CEO, Chief Everything Officer. So I did know that I had to get myself out there, right? That was a given, right? That nobody's gonna buy your services or hire you if they don't know about you. So that was kind of like a given. But I thought with my network and everything, I was going to be okay for the long term. And my network, although amazing, I'm not going to put that down, and definitely is always going to be the heartbeat of the company. It only can take you so far. You're going to have to do the rest, right? So networks can, for example, provide you an introduction, but it's up to you to actually take it to the finish line. So that part, right, was unexpected for me. However, apparently I was a natural salesperson because I'm a human.
Yeah.
And I'm too, like Kelly Clarkson says, I'm too lazy to be anybody else. So I was just me, and I was very upfront, very forward, but in a respectful, polite way. Of course, you never want to disrespect somebody, because that's not going to work. But putting out the expectations, knowing what you want from the beginning is always helpful, right? So you'll understand whether that relationship is going to be fruitful or not on either end once everybody comes to the table with the expectations. So I treated these leads, right? That's what we call them. These leads as like a mediation, as how I would treat something, you know, in a mediation that would translate in the legal world, which is basically where parties come together and hopefully come to an agreement. Whether or not that agreement comes, well, that's up to the parties, and that's up to who's willing to do what. So I took those skills that I learned from that setting into the real world for me anyway, which was really leads, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's how you get your clients, and that's how you get your money. So
Right. So the leads are people that are, how would you describe them? People that are what?
So I have two parts to the company.
Okay.
So one part is my paralegals, of course. I am a
Hmm.
paralegal advocate, educator. Recently, I was called the leading, what was it? I was at a network event and it was so cool. I wish I could have wrote it down. It says the leading paralegal entrepreneur, which I loved. It sounded
Yeah.
really fancy, and I'll take it
Okay.
because I am a paralegal at trade. So everybody
Yeah.
associates me with the paralegal role, which is great. But that's one part of it where I coach them. You know, I help them through legal
Hmm.
career pivoting, whatever it is that they're looking for, resume building, interview tactics, whatever it is that they're needing at that point. That is one crucial part, right? And I do a lot of educating and curriculum for the schools and things like that, which all kind of comes together in that same world. Now, the
Hmm.
second part, which is what we call the big ticket item, what makes me the bulk of the money, is the consulting. So anywhere from small to solo law firms. These are attorneys that are open to grow their business by growing their staff, is
Hmm.
basically how I actually love to translate it, because it's a very simple concept, but it's very foreign to others, especially new attorneys that are just coming out of law school that are not really understanding how to maneuver this new world of entrepreneurship. So really making sure you have the right people in the right positions, making sure that you hire the right people in the first place, that you have processes that are going to grow with the company versus
Hmm.
something that's just going to be very short term. Things like that, that obviously I know too much about sometimes, because boy, can I predict, will really, all in essence, the mission of Eda Rosa LLC and the Let's Talk Paralegal is to really change the legal industry from the inside out. And I really that's like true for me. Like that's a
Hmm.
real statement for me, because I feel like if we give them the right tools, all legal professionals, whatever spectrum they're in, I feel like if we give them the tools, we educate them properly, not just provide them a foundation through our educational system, which is necessary, of course, but there are other things outside the classroom that we learn on the job. And if I can be an advocate for that portion of it, then I've done what I needed to do in this world.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So when you're speaking to somebody, because you said you are a natural salesperson, and I believe that everyone is, because we've been selling since the moment we were born, right? When we wanted
Sure.
that first nurturing, right? So in those environments, you mentioned earlier that you said the good enough, the smart enough, and so forth. So go back to those moments when you're just starting your business. Now you're face to face or Zoom to Zoom, however you were with people, and you had those feelings of self-doubt to some degree. How did you get past those to continue on in your mission?
Wow. So one of my things was I was getting so much negative feedback towards the end of my full-time career, which is why I went off on my own, that I felt like my skills were not up to par, because I heard it so many times from this
Mm.
particular attorney. So I felt like maybe my skills are not there. So I did go back. I did some training. I perfected legal writing, because now it's going to be on my own, right? So I
Mhm.
had to like be the perfectionist at heart that I am. And I think that had a lot to do with it. Perfectionism is, it's the best way to failure, because it's never going to be good enough. And then I had a heart to heart with myself, really.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, you've been in this industry for 15 years at that point. You've received the Employee of the Year award more times than you can count. The one of the top highest, top paying clients gave you an actual award. And I have those. I was
Mhm.
cleaning out my drawer and I saw these awards and I saw these things, and I validated myself through
Mm.
those.
Mhm.
I had printed out all these emails from my supervisor telling me what a great job I was doing and how I was, supervised material. And of course, that was early on in my career. So I started reading all this and I started saying, well, where are you getting these lies? Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, they were just lies. And I really, showed myself, hey, toughen up, be a big girl, because, this is all lies. Another setback that I had, and it was something that was really out of my control, and till this day, I still kind of have that issue, is I look younger than what I am. And I
Mhm.
sound younger than what I am. A lot of people, not to brag, but they feel like I'm either 9 to 10 years younger than what I really am.
Mhm.
And now with the red hair, forget about it. Yeah, so it is what it is. My husband's like, oh my goodness, like they're gonna think that, I'm like cradling the crib here. What
Is
is it?
robbing the cradle.
Yeah, rocking the cradle, that one. And so that's one thing that I can't really have control over.
Mhm.
You either accept me as I am or you don't. And I think, what really hit home with me one day after, going through all those obstacles that I created myself, basically. I was speaking to a marketing strategist and she said, hey, you can be a peach, but not everybody likes peaches. And I was like, that's so true. I can be, that is so true. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
for everyone. Not
Right.
everyone's going to, want my services. That's why there's a variety of people
Mhm.
offering similar to same services.
Yep.
And people are they're going to either gear to you or they're not. And for me, I learned that no is new opportunity.
Mhm.
So, I don't take it as, oh my goodness, I wasn't good enough. I'm just taking that as, maybe I wasn't their peach or I wasn't their cup of tea, maybe I was too loud and proud, or maybe I was way too honest in that call. But guess what? That's who I am. I'm not gonna,
I
I'm not
love
gonna,
it.
dim my lights
Yeah.
to make others feel comfortable. So I really I think when I had that epiphany, that was a game changer. My
Mhm.
company literally doubled in profits after that because
Oh, yeah.
I was such a go-getter. It just gave
Mhm.
me fuel. It just added fuel, and it was an amazing thing. And it was actually recent. I say that now, but that was actually recent.
Mhm.
That was in probably January of this year
Mhm.
is really when I went full circle and I said, nope, not a no.
Mhm. Yeah, so awesome. So it just my brain is turning here in different directions with what you said, that you may not be their peach. And some people, there may be a little bit of a clash in personalities, so the real quiet types that are looking at everything over and over analyzing, to us who are more outgoing. We might just not jive with them, or be in sync with them. But what's really interesting, I think, is that if you treat those people respectfully,
Yeah.
instead of, like, some people just, they become flippant and write them off emotionally or with their facial expressions. But like you said before, the key is to be understanding.
Mhm.
Right. So how can that help with, even with people who are not necessarily looking at you as their peach, so to speak? How can that understanding, what does that do for you?
It also has to do with timing.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're just not ready for you.
Exactly.
Whether it's financially, emotionally, and I think that's where the understanding comes from, right? When
Hmm.
you're reading between the lines.
Yeah.
Things like, I don't have the budget for that. Well, that automatically should give you a good guess that they don't have the
They
money.
don't have any money.
They don't have the
I
money,
say that all
right?
the time. It's like, no, 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 I don't have any money for that.
Yep. So, I don't have the budget. So,
Yep.
those things, right? Or it's like, I'm not mentally ready. I always
Hmm.
get that. A
Yep.
lot of attorneys give me that. You can tell that they're And I can usually tell those type of attorneys or even paralegals that I coach that they're just not ready to receive the information, right? So
Yeah.
they don't want to waste your time. They don't want to waste their money if they're not ready to move forward with the project. So what I do with those is I follow up, I give them a couple of months, because it's a journey. Life is a journey, and we
Yeah.
have to understand that. And I completely understand. I've been where you're at. This is why I'm the best coach for you, or this is why I'm the best consultant for you, because I speak paralegal and I speak attorney, and I've been in those rooms and I've been in that situation. And now as an entrepreneur, I understand you more than ever. Really meeting them there,
Yeah.
going back to that full circle moment. It's like, oh my goodness, as a mom of two, I completely understand the struggle, that you feel that you're at home, that you're not home enough, and that you're overworked, and that you're not getting enough money, and da da da. But these processes can really help you with those issues. Whenever you're ready, I'm always here for you. I always say that, even after let's say they hire me, I always keep in touch with all my clients. I still do jobs for my first client ever 6 years into it because of that, because I cultivate those relationships. Just because they're not using my services or they grew or whatever, doesn't mean I can't keep in touch and send them a thank you for their support. Because if they never supported me in the first place, I wouldn't be here. So,
Right.
Sending them a bottle of wine, of their favorite wine, because I know they love wine, or sending them, one of my clients is a golf, like he loves golf. So I sent him like a whole golf kit, of course, with the help of my husband, because I know nothing about golf. So, I sent him like a whole golf thing as a thank you. And I haven't received business with them for over a year. But guess what? The first 3 years, which are the roughest years of our company ever, they were there. They stuck through, they stuck with me, and they gave me what I needed. And they helped me out. So now that I'm able to give back, I'm going to give back. And I think that's really what understanding is about. It's about thanking them when you were in a bad place and they helped you, or being the help when they're in a bad place, or both. So
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, with what you're talking about here is that follow up and that service that you continue to provide. I mean, you are creating clients for life. They may not be continuous clients for life, but they may work with you periodically. They may give you referrals. I mean, those bottles of wine and the little gift packs with golf or something, they may not be in the market today, but you're just, gave them a nice, emotional charge that, hey, I'm here for you. You meant a lot to me. And you mean a lot to me, so much that I'm thinking of you with this. There's reciprocation that comes around. Have you noticed that?
yeah, and another thing that I see companies do, and I've actually implemented it in my consulting package, personalized thank yous. Not the
Okay.
generic ones that come from, Shutterfly. No offense, I love
Yeah.
Shutterfly. Or these huge companies that come with these lavish baskets. They always have that like generic thank you for your support,
Yeah.
for our support in the business, and then it just has like a company name with like a
Typed or
digital
something.
signature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's great. Don't get me
Yeah. It's
wrong.
better than
It's
nothing.
better than nothing, but it's not going to get you what you want. I handwrite all my thank yous. Yes, I do. My hand falls off after, but I handwrite all my thank yous. I buy cards. Oh, shocker. I buy cards. And I seal it with my logo, with like little sticker logos like these.
Yeah.
So I seal them with
Nice.
my little sticker logos so that they know it's from me, but it's a card. It's a Hallmark card or whatever brand it is, but it's a card that I chose specifically for them. So for instance, that golf, lover, I would probably get a golf card, for the wine lover, I'd get her a wine, thing along with the wine, like personalize it as much as possible, because that's going to be memorable. They're going to receive plenty of, end of the year gifts,
Right.
and thank yous. But if you stand out, you'll stand out. So
Yeah. It's so valuable. Yeah. Great stuff. All right. So we've been doing this for a little bit. And I just love the conversation in so many different ways to go here, but I just want to touch back on the sales side of things, because you said it took you about 3 years to get going. What can I ask was like, people who are selling in sales want to see results. And what kept you going when you were kind of challenged, maybe spending more than you were taking in at times or whatever it was? What kept you going?
So I had to realize that my company was growing and pivoting, right? So for the first 2 years, my company, all they offered was paralegal services. And that was it. I just offered paralegal services on a freelance base. And I did that for 2 years. But then I started getting a really big following on LinkedIn and social media in general, but mostly on LinkedIn. And I started, paralegals started reaching out to me and asking me, how'd you do it? And this was before the pandemic. I opened my business in 2017, just to give you a perspective, where it was super hard to tell an attorney that I can do everything virtually. So mind you, 2020 was a blessing for me.
Well, they have a culture to be in the office.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. They want to see people and they, so it's a trade.
And some of them still do. And
Yeah.
it's warranted. I will tell you that sometimes it is warranted. I'm not going to knock it, but it's not warranted for 40 plus hours a week, Monday through Friday. Honestly, if you're doing it right, you have the correct processes, you have the correct people in the positions, and you got it right. You don't need all of that 24/7. It's just not. I used to finish my work within 4 hours and just spend the other 4 hours just trying to find more work. Because it was, once it's done effectively and once you actually know what you're doing, it should be smooth sailing from there. Not all the time, there's always those one-off days, but it was really hard. It was hard to convince these people that I could do it virtually. I was 8 months pregnant. And, right when I opened up my business, I found out we were pregnant. So that was tough, right? And I couldn't no longer, at that time, I had 2 in person where I would go to their offices, and they were about, I want to say 30, 40 miles apart. And I would go sometimes on the same day. So it was, it was taking a toll on me. My son was born almost 10 pounds, to give you an example of how big I could be. And I'm this little petite, girl. So it's like, it was a lot, my feet were swelling. I was always tired and hungry. Like I was miserable. And so there was a lot of other factors that kind of not slowed down the progress, but slowed me down, like as a person. And so once I realized that it wasn't just all, the business, it was a lot to do with me and what I was going through and my body telling me to slow down because it's impossible to work around the clock when you're about to be 8 months pregnant. Things like that. I have to say that I had to be real with myself again. You have to have that tough love with yourself and have those real talks with yourself, because even though other people tell you, hey, you're pregnant, like, hey, you're working way too much. Like, you're not thinking, you're like, no, I got this. What are you talking about? I'm Eda Rosa. Hello, I can do this. Meanwhile, I'm like falling asleep on the desk, starving every 2 hours. So, you got to be real with yourself sometimes, and you got to give yourself some grace, and you have to give yourself some understanding. So.
Oh, fantastic story. So you have come a long way. So you start a business and you're pregnant and you're 8 months. Anyone who's starting a business, and if you're not 8 months pregnant, it's like, wow, we've got someone just set the bar for us. Try carrying around that extra weight.
Yeah, he was my second baby. So I had a toddler. She was only 2, not even in school, and I was pregnant. So it was a lot. It was a lot going on, but I have an amazing support system too, which I think is warranted in this conversation. You really need to have that that respect, and that support. It's so important.
Yeah. In what way, other than just helping you with maybe watching the kids when you're going to see a client, what would you say was a big lift for you with the support?
Sorry, my computer just muted.
No problem.
My big support emotionally, because I was so drained. And, a little sympathy and empathy go a long way, and a good job, you're doing great, don't
Yeah.
give up. You're right there. You're going for it. Like sometimes you just need those cheerleaders in your corner. Sometimes you need a different perspective. Like when I was coming out with new products and the webinars and the Let's Talk Paralegal brand and the podcast, I really spit those out to my best friend, my spouse, my mother. And I said, what do you guys think about this? Should I even do this? Should I even add this to my plate? And they would come back and they would be like, I think it's amazing, even though they knew nothing about the legal industry, but just the concept itself and knowing that they're in your corner, it's, invaluable.
Yeah. Fantastic. So Eda, what would you like to say to our audience of people who are newer to being in sales or an entrepreneur that wants to grow with sales? What kind of suggestions would you make for those people?
Well, first of all, don't give up. Because I feel like sometimes we give up right when we're about to win. We see the finish line or we don't see it and it's not that far, but we give up. Second of all, tap into your network. Ask for help when needed. When you need help, we are the chief everything officer, but that doesn't mean we have to do everything all the time. If you need help with your marketing, with reading out analytics or learning about how to, convert clients or websites or whatever it is that you need help on, and understand that you're not the IT person and you're not the marketing specialist, like know where you need help and find the budget to pay somebody to help you, because at the end of the day, while they're doing that, you could be making money to pay them and, to make more if you need to. So sometimes, even though it's not in your budget, trust me, the money will come. And I think my last one is believe in yourself. Nobody's going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. And I think that's probably the toughest one to swallow, because a lot of times we're like, yeah, we got this. Come on, I'm the smartest. I got 15 years under my belt. I've done this, I've done that. But when you're going into a whole different world, it's like a little kid, first time at school, like you probably don't remember it, but it's like the first time you ever stepped, foot in your high school. Let's go there. How about that?
Right. That's a good one. I do.
Everybody remembers that day, it's intimidating. It's scary. All of that stuff. And you know what? If it's scary and intimidating and overwhelming, you're in the right direction.
Yeah. Great stuff. So where can people find more of you, superstar Eda Rosa? It's awesome that you joined us, but yeah, it's great.
I would say the website has everything. It's very simple, www.edarosallc.com. That's where our podcast link is, YouTube, all the social media outlets. If you want to set up a free consult, all of it is on there. So
yeah, this lady is changing the legal industry, ladies and gentlemen. So look her up. She brings the energy and great advice. So Eda, this has been a real treat. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Awesome. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Good deal.